I hope you've seen the video before, but in case you haven't, I've worked a lot over the culture and the religion of the Kaksolian people over the 11 months that I haven't uploaded. So let's begin. So one of the big changes that I added for the culture of the Kaksolians is the concept of dualism. Of course, there's one deity, Irantat, but they are split into two forms. One of the forms, the sun, which represents
light, warmth, and life.
While the second form is the moon, which represents
the moon itself, the vast cosmos, and devotion.
Then showing devotion to Iranut, to Kaksolians, is a balance, deep self-reflection, meditation, as well as communal activities, as the Kaksolian culture is very community-based. Things like this could be
fishing, farming, or even building.
Just as long as they work together. Oh, mutual aid, that's very important. And then the Kaksolians believe that in life, the soul is in one part, soul of the individual. However, upon death, it splits into two. The physical form, and that is where it's in places like tomb or even around burials. And the second, in the afterlife of the Kaksolians, called Chanhuzu, which I will get to next. Just culturally, though, Kaksolians have dualism in the fact that they try to balance life on land and salt water. So that includes
coral reefs, dunes, or even open ocean.
For most Kaksolians, it is called Chanhusu, which is actually located on the moon, which is also one of the forms of Iran. When the deceased are in the afterlife, they aren't directly in Chanhusu as they reawaken in their second form of their soul. Instead, they're led by all the sacred animals, which are examples
are dugongs, butterflies, cows, cats.
I'll make a full list on the side here, but those are some examples right there. And they're led up the big staircase of Nana Maru, which is an evolution of Mount Meru from Dharmic religions, and finally led to the Grand Gate of Chanhusu. And the Grand Gate is made for a relieving, cooling effect for the deceased. Though not everyone makes it to Chanhusu, some people, especially it's like wrongdoers or just really bad people, there's no exact rule on how one gets to Chanhusu, except for other than like being kind to everyone and stuff like that. There's a cycle built into the system of the world that Iran created called Samshaya, which is an evolution of Dharmic belief of samsara, where then there's the concept of Nibbanama based on Nirvana, also from the Dharmic religions. Instead of samsara being the norm and Nirvana being escaping, Nibbanama is only for Puteta individuals, where they go beyond Chanhusu and they basically become part of Iranuta in the still flowing light reflecting near the surface of deep oceans. Now, onto the part of the Putetai. So, the Puteta are based on Bodhisattvas, so they're enlightened individuals who are venerated by Kaksolians. So, they were very religious in life and had incredible balance of the dualistic practices I mentioned earlier with their community or in the self-reflection. So, the first one is Ukoto, who is from Egypt. You might know him as Akhenaten, also known as Ukhatnayatoy. So basically, and that kind of evolved from the Kaksolians into part of Iranuta. But he isn't a full Puteta because he didn't have the right balance. So he was only worshipping the solar part of Iranuta to the Kaksolians, where like the Aten cult. Siteta from India. You may know him as Siddhartha Gautama, also known as the first Buddha, I think. But it was actually his son who led the Thamars to the Kaksolis. I know there's gonna be more, I think Ilopa. I've mentioned him before, but definitely with like a completely different viewpoint. He was not obviously this venerated individual, and he wouldn't have been as a king. However, he was very reformed, and he laid the groundwork for something called the Mosaic Society. for the Kaksolians, where it's a very decentralized confederation of villages based and inspired by the Kunertango Confederation. But he was murdered by his brother, who was jealous that Hilopa was becoming popular among the civilians. So then it would be Punans Puteta would be the one to bears the torch of Gilopa by actually putting the Mosaic society into place. Mete is the last Puteta, like always, the Puteta of the future, based on Maitreya, who's basically there to teach the world about the beliefs of Kaksolian people. Now, for this part of the Kaksolian religion, I was very much inspired by animist beliefs, like what you could call Shinto. So, basically, in the Kaksolian beliefs, there's a Patukavi, which is a location or object with the spirit. You could also say the manifestation, or the feeling, or the essence of Iraenuta. Patukavi sites, or sometimes they're shrines, they're always marked with 2 stone stacks tied by a rope holding a wooden lotus. And they're typically nature locations. For a location like a holy boulder, for a location like a holy spring, a very, very old tree that has the spirit of Iraenuta. And even places like a tidal pool would have stone stacks and wooden lotus. And some of the Patukavi are based on lunar and solar forms specifically. So, for example, for the lunar Patukavi, there would be places like
a cenote, blue holes, and aquifers.
Then for the solar forms would be mountaintop and tree clearings.